Hey teacher friends, Jason here. Thanks for stopping by our store and checking out our worksheet bundles on Exponents. We've got 3 levels. We've got entry, emerging, and expert. There's a lot to look at, so let's get started. On the entry level one, we're introducing Exponents. Hopefully this is a review of Exponents from pre-algebra, but in case it's not, we've got enough information here for students who are hearing it for the first time, or at least so they claim. But Exponents, we got a graphic organizer. We want them to give us a verbal expression. We want to keep that going. We want them to identify the base, the exponent, long form, and standard form. Then we give them more exponent practice. This graphic organizer has it in expanded form, standard form. Next, we want them to simplify. And most of these should be able to be done without a calculator. And whether or not you use a calculator with these with your students, that's up to you. I don't know what's happening in your school, but we do have questions here like, what do you notice? What do you wonder? More questions. What's the difference between an exponent and a factor? They're going to get to critique the work of John, followed by another version. And then John has a different question. So we got a couple of different versions here. We've got our answer keys. Then that's the emerging. That's the entry level. Let's look at the emerging. The emerging pretty much starts off where the entry level one finished. So we've got expanded forms. Now we're expanding variables. And the entry level one, we just did integers, but now we're doing variables and what kids consider regular numbers. We're going to simplify. We're going to simplify expressions with variables. So again, we're going to keep asking that question. What's the difference between an exponent and a factor? Because we asked it once doesn't mean we're done with it. And then finally, we're going to evaluate. So we've got an x squared, and we're going to plug in a 4. And then we got some a little bit more complicated. You got 3 times p to the 3rd power, or p cubed. And we want them to make the distinction between an exponent outside parentheses and next to a variable. And then we want to talk about how it's similar to multiplication. Hopefully they'll say it's repeated multiplication. Next, we're going to build their vocabulary. So they're going to use one of the words on the right to complete each sentence. M to the 4th. M is it the squared? It's the base, right? So they'll write base over here, work it off. You can print it off and cut and paste it if you wanted. Now we're to the answer key. And next is our expert level. The expert level, we got a lot going on in the expert level. It's where we get into the laws of exponents. And there's options here, right? Like if you're reviewing this during the first few weeks of school, you may not want to go into the 7 laws of exponents, and you may want to hold off until you get to rational expressions right before quadratics. There's not a right or wrong way, really. It's just what works for you and your students. But either way, we still have the 7 laws of exponents in this graphic organizer. I personally like to introduce it as soon as possible so I can keep, referring back to it. But each page here is dedicated to one rule. So you got the product rule, or the power rule. Then we move on to the expanded power rule, the quotient, and the 0 exponent rule. And we got some pretty cool questions here like 4 squared times whatever this is. Well, that's going to be 1. So 4 squared times 1 is 16. Trying to develop that number sense. And finally, we got our fraction exponent rule, a grab bag, so that's just a mix of everything, and the answer key. So this one is 18 pages in total, 9 pages of work and 9 pages of answers, so there's quite a bit of resources here. If you have any questions, just let me know and I'll be glad to help you out. Thank you.